What's up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 5 of Mondays with Mike. Today is my birthday.
It's Mike's birthday!
I am 38
22.
years old. 12 years from 50, believe it or not. I'm here with the great Bryan Ladd.
What's up, Mike?
Thank you for coming
Thank you for having me.
Taking time out of your busy schedule.
Oh man, well, always good to be back in New York.
So what's going on? What are you doing here?
Well, I used to live here for a long time, but I do live in LA now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm back because this trip is mostly because I'm...
Pizza.
It's really only for pizza. You know, I heard they're still making dollar slices, so, you know, gotta get that. But along with the pizza, I'm actually here working with like an 80s, 90s artist. I don't know how many of you remember Lisa and Cult Jam from back in the day, but doing some work with her and got some dates coming up, so doing some rehearsals and recording, and while I was in town, got to see my homies.
That's right. Visiting the Fodera shop here in Brooklyn, building you the finest handcrafted instruments in the world.
They're really good.
Yeah.
They're really good.
So Bryan, let's get serious for a second.
Let's get serious.
Take us back to that moment in time, that pivotal moment where you saw your first Fodera. Who was playing it? Where did you see it? What did you play?
Yeah, well, there's been a couple of kind of Fodera visual introductions. The very first time I saw one, I was actually in attendance at that, I think it was Bass Day 98.
Yes!
When Victor...
You were there?
Yep,
I was there.
All right.
Yes!
Yeah, man. Me and my pops drove down to check it out.
Me and my brother were there. Had a tie-dye Jimi Hendrix t-shirt on. You can see
You
me.
were the guy with the tie-dye Jimi Hendrix shirt.
You'll see
This
me
was
in the
bothering
video.
me.
Yeah.
Now I know. So yeah, I saw Vic. You know, that was also the first time I'd ever really known about Victor, because you know I went with my dad because Rocco was playing, and that's my dad, who's a bass player. That's his OG for life. And I mean, we knew Victor was going to be there, but that was kind of the catalyst that brought us down. That was the first time.
Didn't know what was about to go down.
I had no idea what I was in for. I was 12 or 13, something like that. And yeah, I think they had just made him that yin yang bass, and that's what he was playing, and it was something.
Yeah, to experience that like in person, I mean, that was like, I mean, even listening back, it's like one of the best performances ever. It's just like, what is going on? And he had O'Teal up.
And one of the,
oh man.
And like something me and my pops were talking about on the drive home, and not only did he sound amazing, as we all know he does, but he was so well spoken. Like when people were asking him questions and what he was talking about, it was just like the most, it was like the most comfortable conversation I've ever seen in one of those kind of situations.
Right.
But that was the first time I saw one, and then they weren't really on my radar for a long time. And then I went to Berkeley up in Boston many moons ago, and I was studying with Matt Garrison for a little while there.
My guy.
So, yeah. Hey, Matt, if you see this, what's up?
We love you.
Yeah, you the man. So I studied with Matt, and you know, he's got that signature with you guys that he's been playing forever, so got to play his bass a little bit. And you know, Matt's bass, if you've played it, it's one of those things that sounds great for how Matt plays. For me, it was like, okay,
it's really strange, right? The way he has it set up, it's like, what do I do with this?
Right, it's so unique to him. But that was the first time I actually laid hands on one.
Oh, that's wild.
And then when I actually was looking to get mine, that all came about because of our friend Sean Whitley, who's another bass player here in New York. He had gotten a bass similar to mine, and I checked it out. And so that was the first time I played a Fodera and was like, okay. I could get down with this. So Sean was nice enough to, you know, introduce me to some folks here and, you know, put in a good word. Sean, if you're listening, thank you.
We love you too, Sean. We go way back.
And that's kind of how it all, that's what got me here.
Right.
And I've had that bass next to you for about 6-7 years now, and I still love it.
No, I love all the videos you post. It just sounds fun.
Oh, thank you, bro.
I don't know if it's the bass, if it's you, it's a mix of both.
It's mostly the bass. Whenever anybody asks about that, the thing I tell them is that it pretty much plays itself.
Yeah. It's like a game genie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the Power Glove.
Yes, exactly. It takes it to the next level.
I never had the Power Glove for Nintendo, but it looked cool.
I just want to wear one around.
That'd be
Nintendo?
That'd be a
Hashtag
statement.
Nintendo. So Bryan, here you are with your amazing Emperor Deluxe.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go by some of the ingredients to your recipe?
So when I decided this was going to be the place to make an instrument for me, Jason was really cool, and you know he's got that whole collection of, I don't know, a dozen or so basses.
Yeah.
So naturally I was curious, okay, what does this sound like? What does that sound like? What if you pair this with that? What does that sound like? So he said, okay, well, here's a version of this with that kind of fretboard. Here's this with that, with these pickups. So what I settled on was I loved the kind of the warmth and the punch you get from the walnut.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm kind of grew up playing mostly, you know, Fender style instruments, which are bolt-on instruments, but you know, from talking to Jason, who walked me through it, he said, well, you know, if you do the Deluxe thing with the set neck, you'll get a lot of that bolt-on, you know, punch that everybody likes, but you'll avoid the heel block that would be in your way. So I said, well, that sounds good.
Easy access all the way up the neck.
And maple neck, which is pretty standard.
Yeah.
And went with the Brazilian rosewood fretboard. We were just talking about this. I know most of the time when they build with a walnut body, it goes with
Ebony
with an ebony
fretboard,
fretboard,
yeah,
which
it's very common.
Which for me was always just a little too bright. I've heard many players play that wood combination. It sounds amazing, but when it's in my hands, it was just not for me. So this warms it up a little bit.
Totally.
And
what about your pickup spacing?
I believe it's I think that's 70s spacing, if I remember right.
Yep.
Just a little, make it a little, you know, we figured if we're gonna go with a relatively warm, you know, wood selection, you know, tonally, set the pickup so we get a little more punch out of the thing. Because, you know, I play a lot of different, you know, things, so one of the stipulations was I needed something that was gonna, you know, sound not just passable, but really good in multiple situations. They hit it out of the park.
Right. So this is your workhorse.
Yep, this is one of a few, but this I probably logged the most hours on this thing for sure. Yeah, for sure.
What do you got, 34-inch scale?
34-inch scale.
Love it.
Low B, you know, Anthony Jackson's probably my favorite bass player of all time. And he's the guy that really made me fall in love with, you know, with those low notes. So had to go that route.
Currently speccing out a Anthony Jackson presentation with a customer. So when I came into Joey's office before, I was just asking about why titanium bridge? Why was that used? Why was that used in the truss rod? Why Brazilian over it? Now it's ebony, now it's hybrid. So it's like just amazing progression. And thank you, Anthony, for all you've done for the electric bass. We couldn't be here without you. We love you.
Absolutely.
So what kind of projects are you into?
Well, doing a few things. That thing with Lisa's about to be kind of busy for the next month. And then I was on the road, or most of the road stuff I did last year was with a band called Tortured Soul, which is, it's an interesting project. It's a trio, and it's kind of like if Chic and Nile Rodgers got fused with like some like club house music. That's kind of the vibe. So sort of like disco, but with a house element to it. Kind of Jamiroquai-ish, maybe. But the drummer is actually the lead singer, so it's just bass, drums, and keys, and the drummer's like right up front playing and singing.
Oh, kill.
So yeah, we we were in South Africa a couple of months ago, which was a lot of fun. And this year, I think I don't think anything's popping with them till maybe the summertime. Okay. And then in April, going on the road with this band called Prager, who I've been playing with for a few years now. That's it's like for lack of better description, it's like a jazz fusion project. But check them out at pragermusic.com. It's like the video game Frogger, but with a P.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So a question I asked John Ferrara last week is...
That's my dude, by the way.
Yeah, we love you, John. You bad boy. So I asked John, so they don't teach you this in Berkeley. You learn your craft, your instrument, but how do you start paying the bills? What do you do?
Well, again, that's a different answer for everybody.
Yeah.
But for me, I've been really fortunate in that I've made a living for the last 10 or so years that I've been out of school just playing bass. Now what that means is sometimes I'm doing very creative, very fulfilling projects that I grow from, and it's exactly what I want to do. And I still sometimes put on a tux and play Katy Perry songs,
That's right.
Depending,
Not wrong with that.
No, and I still like doing it, never upset when those gigs come around.
Yeah. Lessons?
And yep, I do some private teaching. I do in person and Skype.
Nice.
Skype, FaceTime, whatever you use. So if you're interested, give me a holler.
Yeah, FaceTime, Skype, Google Hangouts, we got you.
Or come to the house if you're near me.
Yeah.
That's cool too. Doing some studio sessions now that I'm out on the West Coast. It's the music business just isn't across the board. It's not what it once was, and the studio scene, if you will, has sort of gone that route too. But there's still some of that work to be had.
So on some projects that you're working on, do they just have like the session in the cloud and you just add your part to it from home?
Yep, I just did one of those right before I left to come here to New York. Doing some of that, and a lot of people, they have their setups at their house with a full live room. LA, with there being a little more space that people can have than New York. A lot of home studios are like legit home studios with a ISO booths and everything. So
wow,
some of that too.
What do you like writing on bass, piano? Do you go into Logic, program it out?
The truth is, I've never been much of a writer. Probably the most writing I do is just for my own trio when I decide I want to do something for it.
Nice.
And I'd say it's a 50-50 split between sitting at the piano and plunking some stuff out and just coming up with bass lines that I think might turn into a song. And then a lot of times it's just getting together with people and saying, I got this little shred of an idea. A, do you like it? And if you do like it, what can we do with it? For the writing process, for the little bit of writing I do, I've always done best when I can bounce things off of people and get even just a little feedback is enough to kind of, help a song grow.
Yeah. Water the root, enjoy the fruit.
I like that. I might even steal that.
It's from the great Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Okay.
Taught me transcendental meditation. So how'd you develop your unique style? I gotta know. I gotta know.
You might be the only one who needs to know. Well, I mean, kind of how most people develop, just checking out a lot of dudes and copying the stuff I liked. I mean, when I get asked that question of like what kind of player are you that people like to ask, I think the simplest way to put it is I'm essentially a soul R&B bass player who can play some jazz stuff. So I kind of, draw from those places. I grew up listening to, because my dad was a musician. Some of his favorite bands.
Tower
Power, Steely Dan.
Nice.
The Meters, some of the New Orleans bands. So that was always kind of, even before I was, playing music, that was kind of in the house.
Right.
Because that's the kind of stuff his band played, all throughout. And then, gradually started getting introduced to more of the improvisational stuff. And while I've never really considered myself a jazz dude, I've always been able to draw from, that kind of, some of that vocabulary.
Right.
And, work it into, when I do take solos, it tends to go that way sometimes. I love a lot of 80s, 80s, 90s funk stuff, like, the Minneapolis stuff, like The Time and, Alexander O'Neal and, those kind of bands.
All right.
Even though I didn't really grow up in that era, that stuff always kind of spoke to me. And some of the first gigging I did in New York was at some of those spots in the West Village where that's all they play.
Right.
And I kind of started doing it because there was some work to be had and it looked like fun. And then I ended up really loving that whole world of stuff.
That's beautiful.
yeah, kind of a mishmash of those things, you know.
So who are some of your favorite bass players? Give me like a top 5. I know it's hard.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've definitely gone through like the phases growing
Yeah.
up, like, you know, definitely like, you know, went through a Victor phase for a little while, went through a John Patitucci phase, and I still love those guys. But I think my top 5 that really still stick with me and how I think about music to this day, Anthony Jackson for sure, Jocko for sure, Jamerson's definitely in there, Paul Jackson from the Headhunters, and that's definitely in there. And that's 4, and maybe, I'd say maybe Jimmy Haslip's always been another big one for me. You know,
It's a bad dude.
I mean, what I love about Jim is, you know, plays some of the most brilliant bass lines and plays some of the most beautiful solos too. You know, just across the board.
And upside down.
And upside down. You know.
Lefty upside down.
Yeah, he'll freak you out. And he's one of the sweetest human beings on the planet if you haven't met him yet.
So Bryan, can you tell everyone where we could find you and your beautiful music?
Yeah.
And your career, where you going?
Probably the best place for that. I do have a YouTube channel. If you just type in Bryan Ladd Bass, it should come up. It's Bryan with a Y.
Very important.
Well, I don't really care, but believe it or not, like people have looked for me with the normal Bryan spelling and gone, dude, we can't find you. So yeah, it's Bryan with a Y. And then on Instagram, I do check that. It's just Bryan Ladd Bass, also with a Y. And on Facebook too. So, you know, the usual online hangouts.
Thank you everyone for checking out episode 5 with our good friend Bryan Ladd.
And it's Mike's birthday.
Yes.
I don't know when this is gonna air, but
Soon.
as we're speaking, it's Mike's birthday.
Currently. Thank you for checking out. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Try being named Daniel Kim in Los Angeles.
Hey, this is Bryan Ladd here. Be sure to check out Fodera's YouTube channel for more good stuff.
Yo!
No.
I've heard it happen, yeah.
That is the best ever.
This is not going to be in the video.
Game Genie. Wow, that's a blast from the past.
Right? Put it on top of the cartridge. Make sure you're blowing it.
Yep.
Good connection there.
Maybe blowing it a couple of times.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to like click it in a certain way.
Then if that doesn't work, then you blow into the console itself.
Yeah, or like reset 13 times.
Yep. Yeah.
Works.
You know the struggle?
Yeah.
You know the Nintendo
struggle is
struggle?
real. These streaming games.
Yeah.
What are you kids up to?
This was the 90s struggle of video games.
Seriously. Hold that bad boy.
I will. Right, you asked the questions, not you.
He's my producer. He's the best. I love Dan. We love you, Dan. My man.
Dan the man with the plan.
Yeah. Bryan.
Hey, and be sure to check out Fodera.
This is gonna be great.